Hi, my name's Maddie, and in this video I'm going to show you how I painted this little brown bat. So, I have never drawn or painted a bat before until I had to do this illustration of a little brown bat for my Fresno Fauna series. So I had to do a lot of research and find good references, and I learned a lot about bats in the process, so I'm going to walk you through what that process looks like, from finding references to doing research to making the sketch and until the final painting in gouache, and maybe learning about an animal species that's unfamiliar to you and that you'd still like to paint or draw. So let's get started. I've also made a PDF guide of this painting process. If you'd like to access that, you can subscribe to my email newsletter in the link below. I send new PDF guides and art tips every month. So here I am. This is where I look for my references. I'll look on Flickr, and you can adjust the license type to be no copyright or use by attribution. So then I just look for pictures here that I can use freely, and they aren't always the best, but this way you have some non-copyright images to use. And I do combine several or more than several images into my final painting, so I really try to avoid copyright. And this is pure ref, so this is how I organize my reference photos. And it's really convenient. You can resize things, flip them back and forth, and add notes to them. Alright, so I started out with finding a couple photos of mouse-eared bats online and just doing some really rough studies based on those, just kind of looking at what I saw, not thinking too hard analytically about anything, and trying to get an accurate depiction of each bat. What I noticed from these studies is that their faces have no hair and are darker in the shapes of their faces, and also that their tail is connected to the membrane of their wings. Next, I researched more about bat anatomy, about the mouse-eared bat anatomy, and I did a couple of quick little sketches that would explore different poses that I could have in my final illustration. So I did two that I really liked, and so here I am doing the first one, which is the one I ended up doing, spoiler alert. And just fixing the face at this angle was kind of difficult, but I think I got it in the end. I had multiple references that showed me different angles of a little bat's mouth opening, so that was helpful. This is the second pose that I tried with, it showed the top of one wing and the bottom of the other one, which I kind of liked, but the face was a little bit less cute, I think. And I'm trying to get the bones a little bit more accurate in the wing. So what I did, because I can't make decisions, is I uploaded it to Instagram. I put it on my story and asked which one I should do for my next painting. And it was overwhelmingly in favor of the top one with both the wings out. And here it is, ready to be transferred onto my watercolor paper. So I use transfer paper, and I always want to make sure the dark side is down, because that's where the charcoal or graphite is. And I started to trace over my drawing, and I just checked to make sure it's all looking good and that I'm using the right pressure to transfer it properly. Once it's transferred all the way, I'll kind of refine the sketch, add in the little details, fix parts that were a little bit too light, and I don't worry too much about it being too dark because it's gouache and it will cover up pretty much everything anyways. So the first step is the underpainting. So here I'm mixing up some yellow ochre, permanent rose, mostly yellow ochre, and a lot of water, and I'll just coat the entire bat in this mixture, pretty light wash. And what this does is it gives it a base that starts off that's a little bit more saturated and vibrant, and the whole piece kind of goes together in a more cohesive, solid way. And then I take a good long break, put my brush on my little brush stand that I made out of polymer clay recently that has mushrooms on it. And we're gonna let the paint dry. As always, doing lots of stretches because my shoulders hurt from sitting weird and painting. I shake my tree to encourage it to grow. Check on the cat grass. Check on the cat. Close the window because his face was in the sun. Check on the cat again. He's awake, but he'll be good. So now I'm mixing up the first big color to just cover the wings in, and as always I tested out on my little scrap paper beforehand. And when I'm doing this base layer, it's pretty light, and I'm trying to get those shadows blocked in to begin with, so kind of darker, closer to the left side of the bone, to indicate that it's folding away from us, kind of. Then, after I did that big section, I wanted to do the face to make sure that it's kind of the most important part, so I wanted to make sure that everything was gonna look good. And whenever I mix one color, I always want to put it wherever else I can find it in my painting. So as you can see, I mix these colors, and then later on some of them will also be in the legs. Then I started onto the body. It was hard getting the exact yellow that I wanted, but I knew later on if I needed to I could add colored pencils to shift the color a bit. So I mainly just did a pretty solid blob for now. And now I'm going to add some darker darks for the wings, and these will be blended in a little bit later. But for now, I'm just laying them down where they need to go. So now I'm going to blend some of these things and add a bit more thicker gouache to solidify the wings. And now the bones were or the arms were kind of a weird reddish color, darker brown than the wings. So I'm also using that to make a dark brown for the body. And then putting in those little creases and folds that are in the wings. And just kind of being loose with it, not being too exact with those. And I'm also adding a bit more of the shadow behind the body. And some highlights to show those creases as well. So now I've got my gouache blocked in, it's time for a colored pencil. Empty out my sharpener because I'll need it on this watercolor paper to get into all those textured bumps. And for colored pencil, I use it to make all the darks darker, I use it to make little details, I also use it to make the lines crisper. So I pretty much give every little area some attention with colored pencil. And it's especially good for making fur. And here's where I kind of shift the yellow a bit with the colored pencil as well. And then 2 dots for the eyes with bleed-proof white. And at this point I think, alright, I'm done, I did my colored pencil. I will sign my name. But then of course I see some more things I want to change. Adding more colored pencil. And then blending a bit of these harsh highlights and lines that I had made because they were sticking out a bit too much. And now I think I'm done.